Welcome, listeners, to our 10th podcast of the year through Mosaic Home Care. Hope everyone is enjoying the summer, to include seeing family, friends, and a bit of travel, of course, since COVID-19, which was almost 2.5 years ago, and we still are in COVID. Today, we have a special guest, Ken Kuhn, with us today, calling in from lovely BC, Canada. He is Tri-City Seniors Action Society Executive Director. He will discuss the importance of connection within communities, the benefits of older persons volunteering in our communities, and the work through Tri-Cities Forum on community events on elder abuse, education, and wellness forums. So welcome, Ken. It's a pleasure to have you. Welcome. And before I go into some of my questions to Ken, I would like to read out Ken's bio and areas of work within BC that Ken is part of. Ken has lived in BC all his life. He received degrees from the University of BC and University of Oregon and taught accounting and entrepreneurship in the Coquitlam School District at BCIT and at UBC. Ken retired from teaching about 12 years ago. Ken spends his retirement life paying it forward on seniors' issues in positions such as Executive Director of the Tri-City Seniors Action Society. As ED of TCSAS, Ken has organized several free events for seniors such as the Age-Friendly Tri-Cities Forum, World Fest, a senior celebration of cultures, elder abuse, and wellness forum, and Pathways to Better Health Forum. Ken is also a regional mentor for Fraser Valley West for the BC Association of Community Response Networks to promote adult and abuse awareness. His network area includes the Lower Mainland communities of the Tri-Cities, Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, and Port Moody, Maple Ridge, New Westminster, and Burnaby. Ken frequently offers workshops in adult abuse awareness. To promote healthy aging for seniors, Ken receives an annual education grant from the Sanofi Pasteur to promote influenza vaccine awareness and offers immunization workshops. So welcome, Ken, and glad to have you online. Welcome, Ken, to our podcast. And one of the questions I'm going to start off with is, you have been retired for 12 years now, and can you explain to the listeners why you wanted to volunteer for these different groups, such as Tri-City Seniors Action Society and the Fraser Valley West for the BC Association of Community Response Networks?
Well, Jane, as you said, after I retired, I've just got far too much energy and enthusiasm to not put it to good advantage. I was dealing with my dad, who was going through some health problems where he lived up in Nelson, BC, and that's about eight hours drive east of here. So he was in and out of hospital. And one time he had asked me to find the address and phone number of a family friend to contact her to tell her that Dad was in hospital and not doing well. So I went through some of his personal papers and checkbook to find the address. And I noticed that there were many, many checks written for amounts like $50, $75, $100 to different organizations that I had not heard about. It was to keep him eligible for this big lottery. Wow, what a scam. After my dad passed away, I just decided to pay it forward to help seniors. And I did know that my dad had purpose in his life. I shared that every Wednesday in his local Nelson's at the Save On grocery store, they would put outdated breads, pastries, muffins, and shopping baskets for my dad to pick up. He did this from the age of 75 to about 88. He would load up his car and take these bakery items to the local hostel and homeless shelter, and then some to the local senior center. He had purpose in life. So I guess I always had good role models as parents. Both my parents had been awarded Citizen of the Year in the city of Nelson in different years. They taught square dancing to about 250 teenagers every Friday night from 7 o'clock to 9:30 for many years, and adults on Mondays and Tuesday nights. This is all after they're working all day at their day jobs.
Wow.
And they coached baseball, hockey, and uh, were involved in Kiwanis and curling and all sorts of things. So, again,
S-
uh,
s-
they
So
had a
they
purpose in life to make a difference.
That's right, and they were connected. I remembered the story of your dad that you had mentioned before, and my parents. Just a little bit about my parents. They were also actively involved and belonged to the community neighborhood association. So again, there lots of things were happening in the 70s. Groups were using old schools as social gathering places, for card clubs, music, knitting groups, exercise groups, and it brought all different people and ages together. So it's nice to hear
Mhm.
that. And also, I guess, that you were able, to be with your father as well, and sort of noticing things that were going on with regards to scams. And we'll get into that later, but that is a huge thing within, Canada and around the world is older persons being taken advantage of.
Right.
By different people, and lots of scams of phone calls and emails being sent. And so people get drawn into that. Moving on, I know that you have been part of the emergency preparedness program at Age Friendly Communities. And so I was wondering if you could chat about that a little bit for our listeners.
Yes. So our Tri-City Senior Action Society takes on a few different projects each year, and for that we have to write a New Horizons for Seniors federal grant. So one of the ones we did was this getting the emergency preparedness information out to seniors. So we put together about a 40-page booklet for them that could be handed out to them and put on information sessions. Um, just recently, we hosted something with the Port Moody Fire Rescue, had about 35 to 40 people attending, basically talking about how they can protect themselves at home. And they offered free home safety checks. And when they come home to your home, if things just aren't right, they'll install a free smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector, etc. And so we also have our volunteers, senior volunteers, canvassing high-rise buildings to identify any vulnerable people who would need help in case of an emergency. And I always use the example of a 2-week power outage. So that would affect a lot of people. If they're up on the 16th floor and the elevator is not working, that's going to affect a lot of people. The people who are maybe on oxygen or on dialysis or some of those things, if they're affected by a 2-week power outage, then our first responders, our fire rescue people, police, etc., need to know that information. And because of the privacy of information, etc., it's on a volunteer basis. But most people are willing to share that information, and it's just going to the first responders. We're not keeping that information at all. We're just passing it on.
And if people, the vulnerable people in the apartment buildings, how would they get connected to other community agencies that perhaps would help them? Is that something that the fire department or police would do, or another organization would become involved, or how would that work?
No, the fire rescue, police, and ambulance people are just too busy with whatever the earthquake or emergency or whatever it is happening. So I always tell these people who are the vulnerable ones to have a plan B. Have that extra battery, have that extra oxygen tank, all those extra pills that they need, because again, if there's a power outage, no one can go to your pharmacy because the computers are down, so you can't get that extra, you know, portion of pills or whatever you need. So we need to make sure that they have a plan B in place.
Mm. I do know that, I mean, one of the things sometimes that the organizations do or provide to people is just like a list where older persons or vulnerable persons can add some information about themselves, any medical conditions, what pills are they on, any specific contact person that they need. And usually the older people or individuals may put that on their fridge. So when the emergency department goes in, or fire, or whoever it might be, that information would be there, which would be helpful.
And
So,
that's one of the programs we have. It's called a green sleeve, and it's magnetic, so it clicks onto your fridge,
ah,
and all that information is inside. And all that information is also inside of the booklet, emergency preparedness booklet that we provide. And
excellent.
and there's things like I need help, stickers that they can put on their window, or things like that, that they can, customize for themselves.
No, that's amazing. That's good.
As
Uh,
far as the age friendly initiatives, we've also made recommendations regarding walking and running, trail safety, things like tree roots. If it's a safety hazard, make sure that the city knows about that. Um, we also make recommendations for, washrooms and benches, proper signage. And with the age friendly, I always talk about 8 to 80, because people, I'll sometimes say stroller to walker, because uh, people who are pushing their babies who are, under 4 or 5 years old need to have benches to sit down, washrooms to go to, just like older people. So, and it's, as we all saw during COVID, it was certainly a problem with not having access to public washrooms.
yes.
So those are some of the age-friendly things that we also do.
No, I must say that, BC, I find, is quite ahead of Ontario with age friendly communities. We're getting better. We need more, as people are walking along the streets, include more benches in the parkettes and along the main streets that people can stop. It also gives them a chance to connect with other people and have conversations with other people as well. Again, washrooms. So Mosaic has a pole walking group. And again, we're needing to know where the washrooms are because obviously, people do need to stop. And also, we've done quite a bit of work on micro mapping. So again, knowing your 1 kilometer circumference of a walkable community is also very helpful. So, yeah, I must admit, having come to BC and Vancouver for the first time and connecting with community agencies and what is being done is incredible. And so I was very impressed. Just some other questions. What are the benefits you think of older persons getting involved and volunteering in their communities?
Well, we need to have a purpose and a reason to get up each day, right? Be involved in the community, share all your skills that you've learned over your careers or your hobbies that you have, that sense of belonging, connecting with those in the community that share the same interests, whether it's golfing, fishing, pickleball, or any other sport, or a hobby like woodwork, sewing, collections of items, connecting with other generations, whether it's grandkids, school children, to share experiences, just meeting new people in the neighborhood and connecting with similar areas of expertise, or a walking group. All of those things keep you feeling vivacious and live and
Yes,
interest.
correct. And I think, as our discussions before the podcast, there are a lot of older persons or retired persons that have started their own groups. In Toronto, we have 211, and that is an information educational line that you can call somebody and ask some questions. But there are so many groups happening, in Vancouver. Men's sheds is another thing. Forest bathing groups, connecting with the outdoors and more of a holistic way, which actually helps people who are nervous or stressed or depression. That really helps. And so a lot of people have started, their own knitting groups or their coffee catch clubs, like so many interesting things. And the more that individuals get out or community agencies connect and run different groups and finding out that information, there's a lot of things that are happening in the cities that most people don't know about. So I think it's about word of mouth. It's about sharing about experiences and programs that you might come across.
Well, and as you know, I send out a monthly newsletter, and it's about a 24-page newsletter. And I try to put in not only informational events on dementia or, other hearing problems or heat dome concerns, but also what events are happening. And of course, during the summer, there's always lots of events. And I try to put in everything free that is like outdoor music concerts that are free, anything all that might be of interest for older people. And I just have a great following of people saying, oh my God, I wouldn't have been at this event unless I had heard about it through the newsletter. So
And through
it's
you,
important
and
for
through
people
you,
to.
Ken. And how would somebody get a hold of that newsletter? How would they contact you? Or is there an email or website? Or how would they find out about it?
Well, again, probably the easiest way is to contact Mosaic because they have your contact information. And I must say, the events are obviously local to what's happening in the Lower Mainland here in BC, but all of the health events or health articles and things like that are certainly applicable to any older senior anywhere in North America.
That's right.
So I'm, I think you're on the mailing list, and I'm certainly willing to, obviously share with anyone out there. It's free. We recommend people just read it and share it among your friends and neighbors.
Ken, are there any programs that are still online that you're running, or have you run things online that, because I do know with Mosaic, we get people coming from not only in Toronto, but some people from BC. We've had people from New York and England, depending on what kind of programs are running. So are you still running social programs online? I think that BC is actually quite ahead from when I went to some of the conferences and listening about the wonderful programs of the men's sheds and all the community groups and collaboration. One thing that I think we need to add within Toronto is more places for people to sit along the main roads or at some of the parkettes. And that encourages people to have meaningful conversations and discussions with people from their community as well. I would also like to talk about actually a little bit about John Cacioppo, who's actually a social neuroscientist, and he suggests that loneliness is contagious and increases the chance of early death by 20%. So actually, many of the things that Ken is talking about today, and myself, is certainly staying actively involved and connected to the community is really important to your health. So it's important to get out, have meaningful conversations, talk to your neighbors, attend social events that are being provided. Ken, I also wanted to find out if people, again, wanted to get a hold of you. I guess you had mentioned about contacting Mosaic, but I also want to find out, are you still running social programs online?
Yes, we are. Uh, and a few less during the summer because people are busy doing things. But I've got certainly a program set up where I'll be putting on elder abuse awareness workshops, especially and immunization workshop information. And when I do that, it's probably leading up in September, October for influenza information because it's really important, as I'll talk about later, that people protect themselves health wise, etc., staying active. So that influenza shot hopefully keeps them out of hospital and so they don't deteriorate in their daily active living. But I also talk about shingles and pneumonia and other things just to try and keep them healthy. So, yes, we'll
No.
be putting on workshops as well as some to do with uh, October 1st, which is the uh, World Health Organization Elder.
Yes. Yes, that's a big event and time of year. Um, I just also wanted to find out any of your personal experience that you would like to share with our listeners of your volunteer work and all that you've provided and passion within the community to help others.
Well, I certainly find that it's interesting to meet people, stay connected, and build that network among people. Uh, it certainly helps to build the network in your local community by getting involved with the local Chamber of Commerce, Board of Trade. So that's where we did a lot of the networking. And then also the retirement residences and their staffs are very supportive of events and activities. Um, Fire departments, police departments work well with us. And the local immigrant or other agencies that work with other cultures. That's always just great for building community support.
And letting people know, I think too, about spreading why volunteerism is important in the community. And how would somebody get involved in volunteering? How would they connect with an agency? And do you have any tips with regards to that?
Well, I think most communities have senior centers where there would be posters up, etc. Libraries have the same. Community recreation centers have information so they can connect people with volunteering in their community. Um, Again, trying to find something to match your interests and expertise to find like-minded people. I know that on some of the forums that we put on, whether it's the Elder Abuse and Wellness Forum, the World Fest, Pathways to Better Health, we have 250 to 300 people attending them. And it's an all-day event, free, etc. And there's lots and lots of connections made by the attendees there. They say, "Oh my God, I didn't know this was going on," and they hear people because we have discussion items, etc. During whoever the presenters are, and people then,
And then there's
uh,
connections being made either,
yeah,
with other people, like-minded people,
yeah.
organizations. Oh, that's super. And just with, I guess, funding, because funding is a big issue if organizations aren't getting funding. How do you reach out to local businesses or community agencies to help? Can you maybe give some examples of that?
Well, it's unfortunate that most like retirement residences, they're on a limited budget themselves, so they don't have extra money. What I've found though is funding through the New Horizons for Seniors federal grant allows up to $25,000 for a society to apply for grant for different projects. We've had 3 or 4 of them in a row that have been very successful. So that brings in $25,000, which is, and I believe it's no more than a quarter of that can be used for wages or any capital items. So all of it has to be used for events and activities. So when I put on an event, it's free for people to attend. I even provide a free lunch. And organizations like Nurse Next Door, Arthritis Support Group, dementia groups, MLA offices, hospital foundations, local libraries, they all provide a $25 sort of gift prize, etc. So
That's nice.
when I have 250 or 300 people attending, I probably give out 50 to 70 uh, draw prizes. So
That's
people
amazing.
win something. Yeah.
That's so nice. And I think the collaboration is key. Community agencies coming together to help communities and individuals as well. So I think that's really important. I do know that we touched a little bit on elder abuse prevention, and actually, I'm also one of the co-chairs for the North York Elder Abuse Network, and that is sort of the umbrella of World Elder Abuse Prevention organization. And just what are some of the things that you've worked on with regards to elder abuse education and awareness in Vancouver?
Well, several different examples, and they can be used anywhere. I've had really good success on a free movie event. And so I've done a private showing just for seniors of Death on the Nile. And prior to that, I give a little bit of a preamble talk on elder abuse awareness as well as following it. And people get free popcorn, free pop, and it costs about $2,000. And we had, I think, about 140 people attend. And so recently we just had the Elvis movie. And
Yes.
that tied in perfectly because I could talk about loneliness and the financial scams, which tied right into the movie. And so again, you've got a captivated audience. They're enjoying the movie. So it's a great opportunity for me to give a little talk. And I also then talk a little bit about 2 of the workshops that I offer. And one's called It's Not Right, Families, Friends, and Neighbors. And that's, can be varied from anywhere from 20 minutes long to an hour and a half long, depending on the audience. And that just, when we observe our neighbors, we sort of know their habits. The maybe the lady next door, she goes out golfing every Tuesday, and the fellow across the way, maybe he goes out to the library or reading group on Thursdays. We notice those things.
Yes.
So
Yes.
when something changes, like it's just not right, and that spidey sense comes up, maybe they're not in good health, maybe they're being scammed, whatever. So that was one of the programs that I offer. Another one is See Something, Say Something, and that's directed at employees who provide services to seniors on a regular basis. Banks, grocery stores, caregivers, hair salons, that sort of thing. So that's some of the things that we do to bring awareness. And on you'd mentioned the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Some of the things that we do there on June the 15th is do the light up of electronic billboards, print, newspaper, and digital ads. The public buildings around here are all lit up in purple for awareness. The city halls, the bridges, fire halls, those sorts of things. So trying to bring awareness to people. So that's the main factor for us.
I think that's wonderful what you're doing, and that the community is getting involved in that. I know in Toronto, I mean it's a big push to get the CN Tower to light up in purple, and just getting everybody or the city involved in this. It's so just, one of the things I think, it sounds wonderful, in your community, it sounds like people are really getting involved and looking at elder abuse as being an issue and how to provide the education awareness to people. In Toronto, we're still a bit disconnected a little bit. They feel, I don't know, some either if you're dealing with politicians or whatever, they don't think it's a big concern, but actually it is. Since COVID, the amount of people that are calling, seniors information line has risen quite drastically. So it's really, at a grassroots level, provincial and worldwide, that this is an issue on elder abuse. And also, we're nearing the end of the podcast, but Ken, when you're not volunteering, how do you enjoy life yourself?
Well, I certainly enjoy being out in the sun. And in the West Coast here, we do get our share of cloudy weather and rainy weather, but hopefully that doesn't stop us. We keep active. I try to get out, go for a run or a walk, regardless of the weather. But I do enjoy skiing, hockey refereeing, golf, and time on the water, boating, stand-up paddleboard, all those sorts of things. So we all
Good.
have to stay active no matter what our
Yes,
age, right?
very cool. And try and keep the weight off.
Yeah.
And also, I believe you love traveling as well. And what are some of the places you've been visiting?
Well, I just got back from a week in Palm Springs. It was hot, hot, hot down there, but I enjoy that. You're either in the pool or air conditioned something. And coming up, I have a couple trips. I have a trip planned 16 days to Egypt and
Oh, lovely.
down the Nile and over to Dubai. That's in the middle of October. And then in the middle of November, I head back to Mexico to uh,
Lovely.
Nuevo Vallarta, for a month. So
So
it's
that's
always good.
your chill time and relaxing time after, all the community work, very important work that you do in the
But
community.
I do work hard, play hard. So even when I'm down in Mexico, I'll be putting on webinars and things like that
Wow.
and attending meetings. So
So you
yeah.
never stop really. Yeah. You keep going. That's terrific. Ken, on behalf of Mosaic and myself, we appreciate you taking the time and your expertise in volunteering in your communities in BC, Canada. And before we leave, I usually like for our guests to leave our listeners with a takeaway key message. So I was wondering if you had one that you could leave with our listeners.
Well, I certainly would, and it's keeping your glass half full. Let's focus on four things. One would be exercise. Let's all make sure that we're staying active, keeping active, going for our daily walk or whatever you choose. So that's the first one. The second one would be diet. Let's make sure that we're keeping those free fruits, vegetables, all those good things, and not so much of the snacking of the chips and things like that. I sound horrible, but that's going to keep you better in
That's
life.
right. Yeah,
And for the people who are smokers out there, that's probably the best thing you could ever do is to stop smoking. It's so hard on your body. So that was number three. And number four, I would talk about vaccination. It's the most important thing is to keep you out of hospital. And vaccinations are proven, they do work. And especially because over half of Canadians aged 65 plus report having at least one of the high risk conditions, such as asthma, cancer, COPD, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, or stroke. So if you're one of those people who has one of those, or maybe one or two of them, then you're more at risk. And so we need to make sure that everyone gets their influenza shots, and there'll be a new COVID shot coming out
That's
uh,
right.
later in the fall. Please take advantage of that. Don't listen to the bad advertising that's going out there that is probably on social media. It's proven it does work. I'm not getting paid to say this at all, but I just want you, when you and I are on a podcast in the future, a year from now, 3 years from now with Jane, we want you to be there.
That's
So,
right.
so you're out, not in hospital. We want you out enjoying life, dancing, having fun, laughing, all those things. So
And
those are the four things: exercise, diet, stopping smoking, and vaccination.
I think that those are all wonderful key messages. And I think also is staying connected. Also
Yeah.
knowing your neighbors is important as well. And having a good network of friends, going to community agencies or senior centers and take part and volunteer. I think those are great messages for our listeners. So I'd like to thank everyone again for attending our podcast today, and stay tuned for our next podcast coming in November. And this is Jane Teasdale signing off, and thank you so much, Ken, for coming today. It was a wonderful conversation that we had.